Okay, here we go, folks. Let's get started. Today we're going to continue with still 1-point perspective. I want to do a quick review, though, in case anyone was absent. On Monday, we did this in class. And by the way, all of these presentations are actually being recorded on YouTube. They're up there. Just type in Mr. Linderman, and you'll find them. If you want to go a step further, Mr. Linderman's 1-point perspective. Mr. Linderman's 2-point perspective. You'll find them. But just as a refresher, we always want to start with our vanishing point. That's the most important thing, knowing where that is. We drew some shapes. We ended up, learning this new word, orthogonals, these lines that go to the vanishing point. That helped us to make these more three-dimensional. Using parallel lines, we turned these into individual little 3D forms and shaded them and added detail. And then on day 2, we took that to the next level, and we ended up with an exterior, an outside scene. And in fact, I'd like to do one more thing to this that we have not done, and that's the old telephone poles in a row. We have, it's kind of a rite of passage. How do you draw telephone poles in perspective? Well, let's start with 2 orthogonals, like we did with the road. These 2 orthogonals I'm about to draw are going to tell me where the top of the telephone poles are and the bottom of the telephone poles. So, let's put them kind of coming right through my house here. I'm going to start by making an orthogonal. So I made a line that went right through my house. And I'll make another that comes up toward the sky here. So I've made 2 lines. And just like when I made my road, you can start with orthogonals. And what I'm going to do is fit poles in between these. So let me just draw one for starters. Maybe it's about right here. The bottom of the pole is down here. The top of the pole is up here. There's one telephone pole. These things will be gone in another 20 or 30 years. We'll have no more telephone poles, believe it or not. Why would you? Everything's satellite and Bluetooth, and we have waves and 4G. By the time you're my age, it'll be like 10G. You can just think it, and it'll transfer you. Let's make another one in between here and here. It's smaller, of course, but we're still going to the bottom and top of those orthogonals. Let's make another one. It's smaller. And another one. Another one. And that's as high as my voice gets. And we can keep going the other way. But do try to spread these out a little bit more each time. I'm going to put this one right about here. I try to avoid placing these where it's going to interfere, like with my house, or like I wouldn't want to put it right on top of this tree trunk or right on the corner of the house. When we have lines that line up with something else, sometimes it becomes confusing to the viewer, and we call those tangent lines, and it's just kind of weird. Now this next one's a little weird. I can't see the bottom of it. Of course, it's behind my house, but I can draw the top of it. And I can put one more over here. One big telephone pole. You'll notice I'm making these a little wider each time, too. Thinking about the fact that they're closer and closer. So I hope you got that to work. The main thing is you want them to fit in between your orthogonals. Now you could get into little details, like there might be a little transistors up here, a little bird sitting up here. Of course, if you added wires to these, then it really looks a little bit better. And don't forget to erase those orthogonals. Let no one see your trickery. Just wanted to show you that. You could do it with a fence too. Draw two orthogonals and put a bunch of little fence posts in there and then make the horizontal slats that go in between. Like this. Here's some fence posts. These were made by calculating two orthogonals. I have a lot to get to today, so I hope you got the basics there. If you want to add more details later, that would be great, but hopefully you got that to work. We are now going to turn into 1-point interiors, inside scenes. So, grab a new sketch page. And let's write 1-point interiors, not X. Just like yesterday, we only need 3 types of lines, really. We need horizontals, we need verticals, and we need orthogonals, lines that go to the vanishing point. So if we just back up 1 second, you'll notice that pretty much every line in here is perfectly vertical. There's tons of them. There's lots of horizontals. And yes, there are some organic things I drew, like the clouds. And we do have this plane over here. This is called an inclined plane, so I did break the rules here. But there's lots of orthogonals, too. With interiors, we just really need those 3 types of lines, too. Just before we get started, let's eat up another sketch page. And let's make 6 little sections. What I want to show you, before we even draw like a whole inside room, like this, we're going to do that in a minute, is I'd like to show you just some different systems, I call them, different compositions, different possibilities. Because at the end of the day, I'm just going to draw one. But I want to show you that we can run a lot of different ways to do this. When you're doing a 1-point interior, the first thing we do is we try to find out where's the wall we're looking at, the wall that's in front of us. So it might be a square. It might be a rectangle. Like when you're walking down the halls here in school, and you look at the end of the hall as you're walking toward it, kind of looks like a rectangle. It might be a hall in your house. It might be taller, like this, like you're walking down a long hallway. You know, I put these all sort of in the middle, but they don't have to be. You could put a square or a rectangle up here in the upper right. We could put one down here. We could make one that's really big, like this. But your options, for the most part, are squares or rectangles, unless you had a round ceiling. But you can make them larger or smaller. You can move them left or right or up or down. There's an infinite number of different places you might put it. But what I'm trying to show you with these little rectangles and squares are sort of this wall you're looking at right here. When you look head-on at the board, this wall is a big rectangle. When I look at this wall where the exit sign and the clock are, I'm looking at a big long rectangle, kind of like this. That's the wall I'm looking at. The next thing I want to do is put a vanishing point in these. Now usually when I stand up, well, these are high ceilings, so my eye level would be kind of in the middle, sort of like this. Well, I'm on the left side of the room, so right here, that would be right where I'm looking. That's my vanishing point when I look at this wall. But in your house, usually the ceilings are about 8 to 9 feet tall. I'm about 6 feet tall, so I would make my eye level line, you know, about 2/3 the way up the wall. Sometimes you're standing in the middle of the room. Sometimes you're standing over on the left side or the right side. Or you might be down low, like you're crouching down on your knees or you're crawling. But that little dot, the vanishing point, really represents where you're looking, where you're standing in that room. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. So we have another infinite number of possibilities where to place that dot. You know, I know a lot of elementary students will do this. They'll just make a square in the middle of their paper, and they'll go, now draw to the corners. And now you have a room. It's actually kind of cool. You know, you've got a door here, and you've got ceilings and windows, and that's kind of what we're doing. But just understand, it's not about drawing to the corners. Those don't matter. It's not the corners. What we want to do is, check this out. Watch for 30 seconds, then you'll know just what to do. I'm going to put my pencil on this vanishing point, line up my straight edge until it reaches this corner, and I'm basically drawing a line, but I don't draw this part. I just draw this part. Check out one more. I'm kind of playing connect the dots here. This dot and this dot, but I don't draw that part. I draw this part. And it's not going to the corner. It's going in the direction it needs to go, away. So think of it as drawing away from the vanishing point instead of toward it. Go ahead and give it a shot. And you'll end up with the illusion that there is a ceiling, a floor, and a wall on the left and right. Now, if you want to get ahead of me, you're a little advanced and you know what you're doing, go ahead and try the other 5. If you're not sure what is going on right now, I'd like you to follow me on this second one. Put your pencil on the vanishing point. Actually, press it down hard there. Put your ruler up against it, or your straight edge. Turn it until it touches the vanishing point, and make a line. So it looks like that line is shooting right toward the vanishing point. So this is a totally different view. It looks like I'm leaning against the left wall here, like I'm standing right here, looking forward. And you kind of get that different view. You're way on the left because the vanishing point is on the left. So I'm hoping you guys will start to really make sense of that. Where the vanishing point is where you're looking. It's where you're standing. So we see a little bit of the left wall in this one, but a lot more of the right. Now this next one looks like a door right now, but by the time I'm done, it will look like I'm going down a long, dark hallway. So again, I hope you guys are getting this. The lines that I'm making are angled toward the vanishing point and traveling through the corners of the initial shape I made. So yeah, it looks like a long corridor, a long hallway. Each one of these little different systems will give you a different answer. So if you decided, you know what, I don't like those exterior drawings with the house and the buildings, I want to do something inside. Well, when you get started, you have to think about how far away do you want that wall to be? Do you want to make it small? Or watch this one. This one's going to be a little different because I made this initial rectangle so big. Well, I'm obviously closer to the end of the hallway. I'm just about there. A couple more steps and I'm there because I made the initial shape bigger. Obviously, I'm closer to it. And I'm down low. I'm just going to freehand these in. You can use your straight edge, but that one's kind of wild. Standing over on the right side. Head's pretty close to the ceiling. So some of these you might say, wow, that's a really cool view. I want to do something like that. And some of you may just want to go basic, and that's what we're going to do in a minute. But don't forget this page. If you decide, I want to do a one-point interior, you've got an infinite number of shapes to start with and places to place your vanishing point or eye level line. But once you dialed in on those two, well, then you're kind of bound to the lines you make. So, all right, I am going to get into now drawing a one-point interior. By the time class is done, we're going to end up with something that looks something like this. This was first hour's little version. So I'm going to show you how to draw an ellipse, how to draw a couch, a rug, some doors and lights and hallways and all kinds of cool stuff. Even a checkerboard floor. Here we go. Grab one more page. So I'm going to start with my initial wall, and I'm going to make it like a rectangle. And I'm going to put that rectangle up here in the upper right. Maybe right about here. Now try to make your lines perfectly vertical and horizontal. This is like your math problem where you might forget the negative and then the whole problem is wrong. Well, you want to make sure that you start with everything vertical and horizontal, and you'll end up with a good result. Now, if this was an inside, like in my house, my ceilings are 8 feet tall, and I'm almost 6 feet tall, so I'm going to put my eye level somewhere right in here. And I'll just keep it simple for today. Let's put it right in the middle. So I'm standing in the middle of the room, staring at the wall. And if you want to get ahead of me, you can. But we're going to draw 4 more lines. They go from the corners toward the vanishing point. A little bit different than self-portraits, huh, guys? A little different than landscapes. A little different than still lives. All right. I guess I still find this, I'm 43 years old. I still think this is cool. I just made a square in 4 lines, and I've created the illusion of space. It looks like a room with a wall, ceiling, a floor, side walls. All right. This wall right here, this back wall, is very much like what we did yesterday. Remember the front of this house, how everything's basic? How the front of this building is just normal too? Well, it's like when you look up at this screen, you see tons of verticals and horizontals. That's what all of this stuff is. There's really not much perspective when you just look at the wall right in front of you. When I stare at this wall, all I see is verticals and horizontals. So, I'm going to let you guys draw what you want on it. Here's what we did in the last class. We drew a door. We drew a doggy door, a window, some other stuff. But it's all basic, normal. You don't need perspective. So you can follow me if you want. Well, I'm going to start by making a door right about here. Now, one thing I think about is how high up the door should go. I see a lot of people do this and they make a door. I'm like, well, who lives there? A hobbit? I mean, doors for the most part are a couple feet from the ceiling, so you gotta sometimes analyze. That's what artists do. They think about the real world and how things work. So, you know, an actual door is probably gonna come up about this high. Another common mistake I see is just to leave the door just lines. Well, doors always have some kind of door jamb or door molding, little trim element around them. That's really going to sell it and make it look more realistic. So definitely include that. Another weird thing I see is people sometimes put the doorknob right in the middle. Usually they're located a little bit lower. I don't know if that's for kids or it's just because it's right where you reach out. It's kind of like where your hand is. That's kind of, I never thought about that. How about this door is right where my hand is? How cool is that? Right about there. But anyway, don't put them too high. That's a common mistake people make. So if you want to put some more details on here, I guess the main point I want to leave with you is that you don't need perspective on this wall. So I'm just going to add a few more details, maybe some artwork here. A Linderman original right here. I like landscape, so I'll put a landscape in here. You could use your rulers and whatnot. I'm just freehanding it. You know, another nice detail is some floor molding. We even have that in here, and this is just a school. Crown molding. The trim that you have around the floor, a lot of people don't add that, but it really brings it to life and makes it look more like a real place. Maybe there's even more lines or decorative elements up there. So don't forget that kind of stuff, or else it looks like another high school drawing of perspective. Start to add the little details, things like this, where you plug the vacuum in, you know, a little outlet. It's just those little things. They don't take long, but man, they really bring things to life. So take 30 more seconds, put whatever else you want on there. I'm going to add a dog door, and maybe there's a place here where you hang your keys when you walk in the door. Little picture of Grandma. All right, let's not forget where our vanishing point is, because that is really important. All right, good enough. You get the idea. Basic. Okay. When we look at this wall, well, this is a little different. In fact, here's something that helped me when I first learned perspective. I would always look at the shape I was drawing in, and it would tell me what kind of lines I needed. Like, okay, obviously I need verticals and horizontals in here. On this wall, I'm going to definitely need some orthogonals and some verticals. You just look at this shape, and it sort of tells you what you need. I don't see any horizontals here, so I don't need those. So first thing I'll do is I'm going to draw another door over here. This is really weird, but I often see people go like this, and they'll make a door like this. No, that's not going to work. You're not going through that door. Hello, it's a door. It stands up straight. Every door that I've ever seen is vertical. So, just like this line here, make your door stand up straight. If it angles at all, it's going to look a little weird. I don't know where the top of the door is yet, but I know it stands up straight. I mean, it's a door. Where does the top of the door go? It's orthogonal. It goes toward the vanishing point. So again, think about how high your door is. It shouldn't be down low here. It should be close to the ceiling. And make a line that goes toward the vanishing point. If your door is slanting, even 2 or 3 degrees, it's going to look weird. Because really everything we need today is going to be horizontal, vertical, orthogonal. let's do this. Let's wrap that floor molding and crown molding rather, right around. And that's done by lining up your vanishing point. This point is kind of important. And just continue. I'm going to stop. Oh, I like how that gets bigger down here at the bottom. That makes sense. I'm closer to it. Let's see if you can do the same for the crown molding. We're using the vanishing point. And adding some molding up there. Alright, I'm going to break the rules for a minute. I just said a minute ago, everything should be vertical or orthogonal. Unless you decide to make it a little more 3D. This could be a door. I could put a doorknob here, but I'm going to make this a hallway that I can go through. And I'm going to erase this line. So let's start by erasing the bottom of the door. Well, now it's not a door. Now it's a hallway. And watch this. Now I am going to put a horizontal on here. So I'm breaking the rules, breaking the law. I'm going to go horizontal. I might as well add the second line. Now I can walk down the hallway. How cool is that? Truth is, this is above my eye level here, so I would actually see the ceiling up here. So there's another line I need to make, another horizontal. Try to make it really straight across horizontal, just like the top or bottom of your page. And if you want, just add a little bit of shading in there. Ceilings are usually a little darker. Cool. Let us put a window on this wall. And I'm going to do it a little different this time. I'm going to start with the orthogonals. You can do it that way, just like the road, like the telephone poles. I'm going to put a window right here. What I don't want to do is just go like this and just make a... that does not work there. That could work on this wall. But of course, this wall needs orthogonals. So, watch this. I'm going to start with two lines that go toward the vanishing point. One here, and let's drop this one right here. So now I know about how tall my window will be. I decided to put those there. The next two lines I need are going to be vertical. Straight up and down, like your vertebrae. So if they're tilted a little bit, ooh, that's where you get the wonky windows. Straight up and down. Alright. So that's a weird shape. I mean, it's not a square, it's not a rectangle, it's in perspective, and you couldn't draw it unless you use that vanishing point. You know, in my house I have the windows that slide side to side, so there's like a line in the middle. But how would I find out where the middle is? You are super smart. You must have a good teacher. All right, so yes. Here's a little trick I like to use. Yeah, I could make a whole X, but I know I'm going to erase it, so check it out. Just go like this and just make a little mark in the middle. And go the other way and make a little mark in the middle. It saves you some time and erasing. And when you find those two lines intersect, you found the middle. So it's the X trick. I just didn't draw the whole X. But what I did do is I found right where the middle is. That's how my windows are at home, but heck, you might have one of those where you've got like a T, like 4 window panes. So, well, it's nice I still know where the middle is. But that line that goes through the middle is not just horizontal. It is orthogonal. There it is. Of course, I could make that fancier and make it 3D and add a windowsill and put some flowers on the windowsill. We'll get to that later. For now, I just want to see you try to make a square in perspective. So you could do that as much as you want. You could come over here and you could... Ooh, this is basically horizontal. I'll do one horizontal. You might end up with one right at eye level, your orthogonal, and that should be horizontal. Maybe I'll do a triptych here. 3 works of art. Start with some orthogonals. Drop in some artwork. You have a triptych, you have 3 works of art, all working together. So you see how I started with those orthogonals? Or you can start with the verticals. You might want to draw a little light switch. You can start with a couple verticals, but just know the top and bottom of your light switch needs to go toward the vanishing point. I love little light switches and outlets. They make this look more realistic, like a real place you'd live. Put the lights on, put a couple screws there. So I don't care if you start with orthogonals or start with the verticals. Once you do a lot of these, it just kind of gets intuitive, and you can do it either way. All right, that's enough on that right wall. But I think you'll agree, aside from us breaking the rules here, making a hallway, everything is vertical or orthogonal. Let's go to the left wall. I'll give you 10 seconds. I know some of you need to catch up. I'd like to be able to sit in this room. So we're going to make a chair. And pretty much like we made this chair. In fact, exactly like we made this chair. There's a vanishing point. We made an L. Hey, we got the same setup here. We got a vanishing point. But where do we start that L? Well, we don't want it up on the wall. That would be kind of weird. A lot of times furniture is a little bit in front of the wall. You know, you've got a little space behind. So I'm going to make my L this way. Notice that it's got a little space, so I'm dropping my initial line below. Now, I'm not just going to make a right angle L. It's my house. I want a comfy chair. So I'll make this a little curvy. Maybe it curves over this way. And this is a little more round. You know what? Let's get this initial line out of the way. We'll put it back in there in a minute. But it's going to be in the way of our couch. We're going to make a couch this time. So there's my L. Pretty much just like what we did last time. And now I'm going to draw my orthogonals. I'm just going to freehand it here, going toward the vanishing point, toward the vanishing point. All of these lines are going toward the vanishing point. You'll have to decide how long the couch is, if it's a sofa or a love seat or just a chair. You know, in actuality, it's all parallel, but these lines look like they're converging because it's going back in space. So all of those lines I just made should be shooting toward the vanishing point. And now I would actually like you to watch for 10 seconds and then do it. All I'm going to do is kind of echo this same line. I mean, I decide where. I'm going to go back here and do it. And then I'm going to echo this one, coming across, kind of horizontal like. And then it turns and comes down. And then I've got my couch. Don't forget to erase your extra orthogonals. Let no one see your trickery. And go ahead and try to put those floorboards back in. Details are always good. A couple throw pillows. Maybe this is a love seat. Maybe I want to make 2 couch cushions. How would I find the middle? The X trick. So even in perspective, you can take this really strange looking rectangle, you can divide it in half, and you can find where the middle would be. So that you could have 2 couch cushions. Shading is really going to help. When you have a 3D form like this, you know, definitely put some shading on one side or another. Make each face a different value, then it really comes to life. A little cast shadow would be nice. Heck, maybe some feet. A lot of couches have little feet on them. Cast shadows. So it's one thing to be able to draw that couch, and I know most of you are probably doing that, but don't forget about the details. Heck, maybe there's a little cat sitting here. All right. Give you a little bit of time to catch up here. And then we're going to draw an ellipse. Does anyone know what an ellipse is? What do you think?
A clock?
A clock, yeah. Well, a clock is an example of an ellipse. Well, I'm looking at this clock and it looks like a circle. But if I were looking at that clock from an angle in perspective, it would be an ellipse. So circles are circles. I mean, they're measurable, really, you know, they're equidistant everywhere. Ellipses, you might think of it as an oval, but ovals can actually be measured. They're actually, you know, in quadrants. Ellipses are different. Wait till you see this. So what we're going to do is kind of like make a window, like we did here, over here. We're going to try to make something that looks square. So follow me. This is a little bit advanced, but I'm thinking some of you are ready for this. I'm going to start by making 2 orthogonals. So I know the top and bottom of my clock. It's going to be a big clock. In my house, I've got this big clock in my living room. It's been stuck at 6:30 for like years. I never changed the batteries. It's just for decoration. I like big clocks. And now I'm going to add my 2 vertical lines. This is just going to be a little intuitive. We're going to try to not make it a tall rectangle or a long rectangle, but try to make something that looks maybe like a square. There is a more scientific way of making a square in perspective, but it's actually a pain in the butt, and it takes a long time, so we're not going to do that today. So I think that could be a square in perspective. Well, I'd like to know where the middle of the clock is. That's where the hands turn. So use your X trick and try to find the middle. Again, no need for the whole X. You could just draw a little mark in the middle. Find out where those intersect. There's the true middle. You see, we use that X trick quite a bit. Comes in real handy. And I'm going to put a vertical line right through the middle of that, so I know right where 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock are. Right there. Just make a little dot at the top and at the bottom, and let's go ahead and just make a 12 and a 6. Now I need to find out where 9 and 3 are, and that is going to be orthogonal. If I go through the vanishing point and through the middle, I can make 2 more little dots here, and I know right where 3 o'clock is and 9 o'clock. That's still a square though. But what I do have are 4 little dots. These 4 dots can help me to figure out where my circle lives. Now, there are methods where you can plot 8 points, or even 16 points, or 32 points. There's a whole bunch of, but basically you have to draw lines, 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 lines. It takes you like 20 minutes, and then you have a perfect circle. Well, for today, I'm just hoping you can realize that you're going to have an arc that swings up this way, and one that goes down to this other point, and it curves over this way, and then back up here. Let's bring that out a little bit further. And if this is your first time doing one of these, which it likely is, it might look a little strange. But it's not exactly an oval. Ovals are the same, you know. You can measure them left and right, top and bottom. This whole left side here is obviously bigger than the right side. This is a circle in perspective. So we probably want to erase the rest of our square. What we did was we pulled a circle out of a square. I always like to add another line around the outside. That little detail will make it look more realistic. Even the one we have in here, above my desk, has that extra circle around it. We might as well add some hands. What time is it? Almost 9 o'clock, so let's make it almost 9 o'clock. And of course you could put 1 and 2 and 4 and keep going. So again, it's not a circle. If you just throw a circle on the wall, yeah, that's not going to work. It's just going to look like it's out of place. So I hope you got that to work, but if you didn't, I'll help you. That's a little complex. All right, we've got just enough time to get to the floor and ceiling. We've done the left wall, the right wall, the back wall. There's nothing on this floor. And I would like to show you how to make a checkerboard floor. So remember yesterday, we on this building, we made all these little hash marks, little tick marks that guided us. We're going to do that today, but we're going to do it this way. So what I'd like you to do is look at this space right between the edges of your walls here and try to find the middle. I think right about there is the middle. Of course, you could use a ruler. Maybe your back wall is 4 inches, so you just measure 2 inches and 1 inch and totally divide it up mathematically. But we're just sketching, so just go ahead and put some marks there. I think I'll make 8 little marks here. I just still think this is cool. We're just going to play connect the dots. Give you 5 seconds to catch up. And we're going to go from those little marks away from the vanishing point. So just watch for like 30 seconds and you'll see all of this happen. There's the vanishing point. There's my first mark. I continue. I'm going to put my pencil right on that little hash mark rotate it until it touches the vanishing point, and just keep going. And this just really creates a sense of space because all of these lines lead your eye back in space. So you could just leave it like that, like we've got a wood floor. Of course, I'd probably add more unless you've got, 10-inch planks. My house, my floor, I've got wood floors. They're like 5-inch. You can get 3-inch. But notice how they all sort of rotate or pivot on that vanishing point. So make sure yours are. And that's a really cool illusion of space. I think I'll do one more. I'll just have this floor wrap right around here. Heck, maybe even one in the hallway here. Yeah, maybe a little one. So your floor could keep going if you wanted. Or maybe it turns to carpet there. Now again, there's a complicated way to spread these out and make them perfect. I'll help you you individually with that, but some of you aren't going to draw an interior. Some of you will draw an exterior. Some of you will want to do 2 points or 3 points, and so the rules change. So let me give you the easy way to do this. Once you've got those orthogonals, take your straight edge, put it right up on that edge, back it up a little bit, and we don't want to go too far. We don't want rectangles that look like that, but we're trying to make it look like squares in perspective, so make a line that goes straight across. If it's tilted, it's not going to look so good. Drop it down a little bit until you're happy with it and they look kind of like squares in perspective. Make another line. Now you're going to find yourself increasingly spreading this back. You're leaving more and more space. So spread these lines out a little bit more each time. But for today we're just going to do it sort of intuitive, like just whatever you feel looks right. One thing I do know, though, everything on this floor is going to be horizontal or orthogonal. We don't need verticals. I mean, we could break the rules. In fact, we'll do that in a minute. I'm going to give you 60 seconds to finish some of your flooring. You don't have to get it all done. In fact, I'll just leave that part undone. Just so you've got the secret formula. It's cool that you guys are learning this as teenagers when back in the day, painters had no clue how to do this stuff. While you guys are finishing up, I'm going to make a little mouse hole over here. That's where Jerry lives. You guys know Tom and Jerry? Or is that... Okay, I don't know. That was what I was watching when I was a kid, but... All right. You know what would be really easy to do is to put a rug on this floor that totally follows the lines you already have in your grid. Like maybe there's a rug right in front of this couch. You could use the existing grid and just make yourself a rug. I mean, really, it probably wouldn't sit right on that grid. Like you might go a little bit over. In fact, I'll do that. I'm going to have it overlap a little bit. But you can kind of use this like a framework to figure out where things live. Or you could have a little mat in front of the door. And that mat would totally follow that grid. In fact, I'll add a little fringe so we know it's a rug. And even these fringe lines I'm using perspective on, making sure they change direction and angle toward the vanishing point. Put a little pattern on this. Just like my cat, sometimes I like to add little things that are not using perspective so it looks like a real place. Like Jimmy left his basketball out. Put your basketball away. Someone's going to trip on it. So don't forget to bring a sense of life to these things. I hate to see just another high school perspective drawing that's all lines and no one lives there. I mean, this is what I usually get. We've got CVS and no one's around. They should close down. We could break the rules. We could have something vertical on this side, like watch this. I'm going to just go like this and make a vertical right off that corner. And then I'll make another horizontal. And another orthogonal. And with a little bit of shading, I can create the illusion that there's a little sunken section here. Like it goes down. By the way, you know, your drawings do not have to be realistic. They could be surrealistic. They could be strange and dreamlike. You could have things popping up out of the floor or sinking, or you could have all kinds of weird things going on. Love it. You could have a crack coming over here and there's ants crawling around. And we're about out of time. So tomorrow we're going to get into 2-point perspective. Yay!